Alright, this is going to be adding and subtracting rational numbers. This is my third video on that, so if you haven't seen the other two, I suggest you watch those first. So, might not look like it right away, but we're going to simplify this fraction. Now, it's hard to tell, but there's a lot going on here, and I have a giant division sign right there. So I have a fraction of 6 over x minus 2 on top, divided by, and then this rational expression on the bottom where we're adding. So here's what I'm going to do. It looks like a lot at first, but I'm going to simplify both the top and bottom, and then I'll worry about the giant division sign. So up top, I have 6 divided by x minus 2. Nothing I could do with that, so I'm going to leave the top alone for now. But on bottom, that's what I'm going to focus on first. So notice how I have this expression there that is an addition problem. So I'm going to take care of that first, and I'm going to put it off to the side here. So what I have is 1 divided by x minus 2 plus 3 divided by x. So I'm going to simplify the bottom first, which means I'm going to take care of this addition here. So we're going to use information and knowledge we know from earlier and do this addition. So what I need is I need a common denominator if I'm ever adding and subtracting. So before I get to a common denominator, I would like my denominators factored. So x minus 2 is factored and x is factored. So when I get to my denominator part, I'm just listing out all of my factors. So I have an x minus 2, and then over here I require an x. So before I can add and subtract again, I need a common denominator. So over here I have an x minus 2, which that's part of my common denominator. I also need an x, just a plain old x, which I don't have yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the bottom by x. But if I multiply the bottom by x, I got to multiply the top by x. And then over here I have 3 divided by x. I have that plain old x piece that I need for my common denominator. I'm just missing that x minus 2. So I'm going to multiply the bottom and multiply the top. So what this is going to look like is I'm going to leave my denominator alone. I still want x and x minus 2, that's what my common denominator looks like. I'm not going to multiply that out just so I could see that, yes, these are the exact same. So x and x minus 2. What I am going to do is I'm going to multiply the tops, the numerators. So I'm going to take x times 1, which is just plain old x. Over here I have a 3 times an x minus 2. So I got to take 3 times x, which is 3x. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. So I now have my common denominators. I'm ready to add and subtract here. So what this is going to look like is my denominator is going to stay the same, still have an x and an x minus 2. But up top I have an x plus a 3x minus 6. So I'm starting with the highest power x. So x plus 3x is 4x. And then I have that minus 6, so minus 6. So I've added these two fractions together. But before we move on and say we're done with this, I do want to make sure this is simplified. So again, when we're simplifying, the bottom is completely factored. Let's factor the top. So the numerator, 4x minus 6, we could actually pull out a GCF of 2 there. And if I take 4x and divide it by 2, I get 2x. Negative 6 divided by 2, I get negative 3. So the top becomes factored to 2 and 2x minus 3. So I don't see any simplifying there. There's nothing we can do, but this is going to be useful to us. So what I did is I just took this bottom highlighted area, added it together using common denominators, and I got this as my solution. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to replace my highlighted area there since I simplified that part. So again, in the numerator, I have a 6 and an divided by x minus 2, big old fraction, and my highlighted area there is going to be 2x minus 3 divided by x minus 2. So it might not be easy to see it, but I have this piece divided by that piece. So I'm going to rewrite this maybe to something that you're a little bit more familiar with. So I have this top fraction, that's what that is, 6 divided by x minus 2. This giant line here, that's a division. So maybe if I wrote it like this, we could maybe see what we need to do with it a little bit better. And we're dividing by 2x minus 3 divided by x minus 2. So we have to think back a little bit. What do we do when we have two fractions and we're dividing? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to take the second fraction, or divisor, and we're going to take the reciprocal, that means flip it, and then we're going to change this to multiplication. So this is going to look like, well, the front stays the same, 6 and x minus 2. Instead of division, we're going to have multiplication, and the bottom is now the top, and the top is now the bottom. So when we do multiplication, this all gets scrunched together. The top is multiplied together and the bottom is multiplied together. So I have 6 times x minus 2 divided by, and I'm going to put my x minus 2 times 2x minus 3. So I now want to look for, since it's completely factored, I want to simplify this fraction. So I want to see if there's any common pieces on top and bottom. So first piece that jumps out is I have an x minus 2, if my pen would work. X minus 2, that divides to 1. I got an x here, but this is a 2x minus 3, so the x's aren't going to work there. What I do see is a 6 over 2. 6 over 2, so that, if I divide this by 2 and divide that by 2, I'm left with a 3 up there. So what I get remaining is up top I have a 3 and an x. And then on bottom, all that's left is 2x minus 3. That is as simplified as I can get, so that would be the simplified answer for the original problem. And that is adding and subtracting rational numbers 3.